Hi,
Hey,
hey, welcome to the ComX Indie Comic Review Show, the best rating pre-recorded show in the ComX network. And I'm Danny.
I
Uh,
did not know that. That
oh
is
well,
that
yes,
is high kudos.
yes. So
I'm
we
give,
finally
yeah,
achieved something.
pat yourself on the back. Yeah, pat ourselves on the back.
Oh,
That's no, the competition is tough, but yeah,
it is. I
Sis
can't
has
think of
us
any
on
recorded
yeah, yeah. Sis has us. Shane, I think I signed like a billion episode contract, and
shows.
yeah, so did you. So yeah, we're here for a while.
Yes, and if people keep on sending us in comics to review, we're going to just have to continue on and on and on and on. Uh,
And
you
yes,
got
on that
anything
note.
to say before we start, Max? Before I introduce this week's comic? No.
Uh, well, I'll just say that my bad for not showing up at Let's Make a Comic. I mean, getting a writer on an illustrating show. I applaud the out of the box thinking. You know, who knows what might eventuate when you put a non drawer at a drawing desk. But ultimately, yes, I know you guys had a good laugh, but I had to back out. You got to respect the person who knows their limitations, right?
Yes. I didn't know there were so many people who actually watched one of those live shows. It was interesting, doing it and all these comments coming through and all that jazz. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
fun.
I mean,
Fun.
guys are interesting. You shouldn't sell yourself short in that regard. So long as it doesn't matter what you're doing, so long as there's a heft of personality there. That's the BioWare motto when they embark on one of their video games. Character is king,
Yes.
and yes, and
Anyway, well, this week we've got a request to do not one but two comics. I suppose this is we should be quite happy because this week's is Dark Nebula. These are the Reverie uh, reintroductions. They're brand new stories. Reverie number 11, Dark Nebula number 11, and number 12. There we go, number 12.
yep.
That's
And if I could just uh, take charge on the exposition for issue 11, we start in a domestic setting. That I believe it's a living room of Anne and Mark, and then suddenly Mark is seized by some sort of cosmic conniption fit, and before you know it, yeah, he is faced with another character called Cyrillus,
okay. I'm
and
glad
you
you said that.
Mark going to the future to deal with his descendants and save them
In
from
Cerebrus's body.
a dystopic peril in Cyrillus's body. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Cyrillus goes to the past in the time of the crucible of the
Yeah, in
Salem.
Salem, the Salem witch trials. So what's
Yes,
that?
yeah,
18th
yeah.
century, something like
Yes,
that.
yeah, we use the word trial very, very loosely because
Yeah.
what it was unilateral condemning, and we have Cyrillus in Mark's body helping his ancestors from the clutches of murderous, prejudiced villagers who are caught in this witch frenzy. So again, we're messing with time.
Timelines. Yes, everything
Yes,
can go wrong.
yeah, and it
Uh,
makes for perhaps at times inscrutable reading, but engrossing nevertheless.
I'm going to say right now, this
Yes,
will not be a great introduction to new fans. Old fans will probably love it to death because they'll know all about the Dark Nebula and his backstory and so forth. It really, really has a strong 70s vibe about it. It just, there's
yeah.
even.
So if we can just dwell on that for a second, so What are the qualities that define a 70s iteration comic book?
With me, growing up in that era, I used to read DC comics, and they used to be they were reprints that were available locally, and they were all self-contained stories, rarely ever having a part two because the chance of getting part two were really hard. Now, I never read Marvel for two reasons. One, they were continuous, and I could never find the first one, the second one, third. Anyway, there'd be just massive gaps everywhere. And secondly, believe it or not, we're talking late 60s to early 70s here. The Ditko and Kirby style, I didn't understand what I do now about their styles and how important they were. But to me, they were clunky and weird. And the art was strange. The stories never seemed to make any sense to me. They always seemed to refer to something back further years ago. And some of the like Doctor Strange, they were like acid trips, on paper. They were just weird shit. But this has the whole comic. Shane Foley. We'll have to say, well, the Dark Nebula is the brainchild of Tad Pietrkowski, local comic legend when it goes back. Like the Dark Nebula first appeared in 1982 in almost in a graphic novel style of
Right.
comics. So it was, these things were just starting to happen. I don't even think they'd happened in America yet. I don't think people like Moore and Gaiman and all that had gone over there yet to show off their wares and change things, which was quite good because that period of the early 80s was a renaissance in Australian comics because the wasteland that was in the 1970s, I think Gerald Carr was the only one doing comics, Australian indie comics. Everything was reprints, or they were in the street press, or they were in comic strips. Comic strips are huge in the newspapers. So were editorial cartoons, and they were huge in the street press. Actually, indie comics, there wasn't a lot around. I think Gerald Carr was the only one. And in the 80s, it's like 1970.
Is this the Australian scene or the international scene?
Oh, the Melbourne, the Australian scene. It's really weird because from that point, as soon as the 70s clicked into the 80s, you had Captain Good Vibes, you had Fox Comics, you had Dark Nebula, which went on to Cyclone Comics, and Tad was with part of those people like the Glenn Lumsdens, Dave DeVries, I can never say his name, and Gary Chandler. They Southern Cross and the Southern Squadron and
it's almost like a comic making, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had Fantastique, you had Wombat Comics, all these things happening, and it was crazy. And Dark Nebula was at the forefront of that, even though the next one didn't really come out in comic book form with Cyclone until about 1989. So there's a big gap there. But the original Dark Nebula, Tad wrote and drew himself. But after that, I think he was just a writer. And of course, when they went through the 90s, they were quite popular, and of course, they were overtaken by the 90s comics and so forth on. But after all these years, this is the first one back of Tad's writing, and I heard, Shane told me that this comic was actually written back then, back in the 80s. So
it was released in the 80s, right?
Well, no, this comic wasn't. If you read through it, there's actually more present day references in it.
There was a Ditko reference. I know that. I'm not sure.
They talked about the January 6th resurrection.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It makes January 6th look like a luau. Yeah, that was a very clever line. Yeah.
Yeah. So that I saw that and I went, oh, okay. This is a hell of a lot more. It's just projecting a style from that period. Now, I know there are people who are going to love that.
Yeah.
They just dig this stuff, especially the artwork. The artwork is really trippy. It's fantastic the way he
Yes. Yeah,
evolved.
I agree. Yeah, it's definitely immersive, and yeah, it's out of body, which given the nature of the story is highly appropriate.
But if we didn't get both copies of this comic, it'd be very frustrating to read.
Yes,
If you had the
I
first one and just had the second one,
Yeah.
it would vary. Now, saying that, once again, Tad also gave us a reprint from which is Reverie. No, it's a Cyclone. It's called. It was not part of the Reverie release, but it's a quick, maybe 4 or 5 page. What is it? The origin of Dark Nebula, which was really good. And then it had a standalone story called Road Trip, which I thought was fantastic. And then he had the very first release on Reverie, the dinosaurs from Tasmania. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. And that was another standalone story, and that was really good. So we had what we're not reviewing are totally different to what we're reviewing tonight. This is kind of like an epic. It's really well thought out. It's very complicated. It has a few funny bits and pieces, and the artwork is superb. Did you find the story immersive, or did you find yourself having to go back and looking at things over and over again? I know I did. I had to go.
Well, those two don't necessarily preclude each other. I mean, if you find yourself rereading pages, doesn't necessarily mean that.
I know. I'm just trying to see what I missed out on. That's all.
In the story, but no. I finished it. I mean, that's always a huge tribute to any art form. If you're with the journey right up till the end, I mean, you couldn't really ask for a better audience member. But yes, no, I did read it. I might not have understood its fineries or intricacies, not having read issues 1 to 10, but from what I saw, the artwork was great, and the story was compelling. You literally had a cliffhanger. You had you had a carriage ride that ended in a the cliff dive, and told in coterminously to this, you have a sci-fi the distant future dystopia where one of the descendants is a female, and through some changes, some shifts in the in the chromosomes.
They're all single sex.
Yeah, that was turned into a man after another sort of cataclysm, an explosion scene. So there were moments of genuine sci-fi cleverness, which I really admired here and there.
I would have liked to see the script that Mr. Foley had to work off, because he's done a good job. But I do have a little thing here. I wanted to know, like, Dark Nebula, and then I saw the name of his alter ego, Medulla, and then I thought, here we go, Medulla oblongata. I can't even. It's a lot easier to say it before dinner. Medulla oblongata, and that is the bottommost part of your brain. So
it's responsible for anger, according to a 1998 classic comedy by Adam Sandler, which is Waterboy.
There you go.
Scene. Why are alligators or why are crocodiles angry? Because they have an enlarged medulla oblongata. It's funny.
I had to see if there was a connection between that name and what happened. And now that I know that the origin story about how the Mark and his nemesis kind of inhabited the same body and kind of lived in it rent-free, exchanging it every 12 months or something like that. I thought, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. So, yes, that was a discovery I made today. So I was happy about that. I'm so glad that you knew that other part from Waterboy. See, it helps to have a movie nerd on your show.
Oh, if Adam Sandler isn't exactly taught in film schools, but who knows? Maybe one day. But how do you make a dense comic book even denser than it is when it is a time traveling story? You make it even denser by making it a time traveling story and a body swap story. Yes. Do you know how trippy that is? Yeah, you're out of body and you're out of time, and you have no sense of space, self, or time, which is a perfect metaphor for our place in the universe when you think about it. And what is a nebula exactly? A nebula is
isn't it a celestial body?
Yes, a celestial. A celestial body of a cosmic gas.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
I never. I neglected to look that up.
Well, let's look it up now. Oh, look, there it is. A cloud of gas and dust in outer space, visible in the night sky as an indistinct bright patch of or a dark silhouette against the luminous matter. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I have heard the backstory and the world building involved in it are quite intricate. But so this is the first time I'd read this Dark Nebula story. The only other one I'd ever read was the Dinosaurs of Tasmania, which I thought was quite good, but it told a standalone story where it didn't go too much in the past. But once again, I say this is a story for true fans only. It is not a great introduction comic, these two. It's great for art. And if you're into really weird, intricate stories, and we're talking really good Doctor Who, I think you might find something in it. But I believe the other two comics that Tad sent along, the Origin one and with that standalone story, the road trip and the Dinosaurs of Tasmania, they were great standalone comics that you can read and don't have to know anything before or after. It's quite they were quite fun, well written, good artists. And also, I have to mention that there are a few other things thrown in here. There's like Glenn Lumsden's The Southern Cross, which is also from Cyclone in the 80s, which is about a 1940s superhero sort of thingo, which is very brave back in those days, having something that was not related to Australia in the sense that he was 1940s. It was I don't know, a weird time. Not many people have a lot of recollection of. So I thought it was good. It was good.
Excellent. And from what you know, is the story of Dark Nebula over?
No, I'm assuming that they're rewriting Reverie, releasing issues that are going to be joined up with Torn, the Torn universe, the Southern Squadron as well. So
Torn, we reviewed a few issues back.
Yes, but it's being re-released, new stories through Reverie. So they're going to start coming, and they're probably going to start coming fast now that Gary's back on his feet. So who knows? Just keep your eye out. But once again, this is a comic is a particular taste, and I think it's not aimed at a young or a new audience. Definitely not. It's definitely for the fans or people who really love those. What's the 60s, 70s? Is that Bronze Age comics in America or whatever? But that period, I think they'd love it heaps. There's a nostalgic
appeal. There's a nostalgic appeal to it. Yeah.
But I strongly recommend that you get some of the standalone ones, number 9 and number 10. I know number 10 is definitely available through Reverie, Dinosaurs of Tasmania, and you'll get a good idea of what the powers of Dark Nebula, because basically he's just a good old Aussie guy with a wife and a young kid who just, finds himself in weird predicaments, and he has to become one of the most powerful beings on the planet. Well, in the universe.
Yeah.
But saying that, our time's run out. So, any last words, Max?
No, this was a very interesting episode. It was couched in a lot of history, of which you knew quite a bit. So thank you for the edification. It was interesting to listen to.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff on Tad and the Cyclone guys, and I have met Tad before. Interesting fellow, got lots of stories to tell, and you can actually catch a very long interview with him on Chinwag with Lee Chalker back in the ComX studio if you look through on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And on that note, until next time, thanks a lot, Max.
Take care.
Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much.